And we're live. How's everybody doing? What a what an eventful week, huh? Okay, Trump was almost assassinated. Um, it's crazy to think how different a world we'd be living in right now had that been a successful assassination. Um, it's a good thing that he was not, regardless of your opinions of him. I think most of us can agree that it's better to not kill people you disagree with. Somebody actually did make an interesting point. They said, they've been comparing Trump to Hitler for years, and isn't the right thing to do with Hitler to kill him? Right? It was kind of to like pit this violence on the Democrats for their inflammatory language for the past 8 or so years. And it is an interesting point, right? It's if you're going to compare somebody to Hitler, and I think many people would agree, if you have an opportunity to kill Hitler, you should, right? So is this the natural conclusion of this language? Perhaps, but I'm going to give less an analysis of that. This is meant to be really reviewing what happened based on what we already know happened. I mean, there's still a lot of information that is unclear, and kind of addressing the different conspiracies. Anytime something like this happens, especially in today's world, with social media, conspiracies run wild, and even minutes after the assassination attempt, I already saw multiple different theories. And somebody already wrote a comment. Disco Mike says, please stop with this bullshit. You are a serious channel. Well, it's true. This is a serious channel, but this is a serious topic. And even if you think that it's not a conspiracy and there's nothing fishy going on, many people do. But perhaps even the majority of people do. And it's worth addressing something like this. And it's also an opportunity to help show people how to think critically on issues, right? Because a lot of conspiracies you could rule out by following certain conspiracy fundamentals. It doesn't give us all the answers, but it allows us to rule out certain things beyond a reasonable doubt, at least. So that's why we do this. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Maybe we'll do some questions afterwards. So yeah, I'm sure you all saw the video. Trump, you hear a shot, Trump holds his ear, he then drops. The Secret Service run up on him, and then they get up, and he stands for that epic photo shoot, which very well may guarantee his victory. Now, that's another interesting point. A side note, it's clear that something like this, even with that photo, it makes him look tough and like a hero. It will sway some people, but it is interesting because if you're truly principled, why is that going to be the reason you vote for somebody? Like, somebody surviving an assassination attempt and getting a good photo op generally shouldn't be the reason. Unless you're really on the fence, you're 50-50, you have no idea who you want to vote for, maybe that'll push you over. But it is interesting that like, I saw many people, it's like, that's it, now I'm convinced I'm on Trump's team. It's interesting. Yeah, I feel like those people are really voting for the wrong reasons. If you agree with his politics, you should vote for him. Anyways, yeah, fairly large Forrest Eagle goes, I would not vote for the Republicans if I was American, but that fist pump picture is pretty sick. Yeah, it was. And this kind of leads me to the first and one of the most popular theories we're seeing. It's that this was all a staged event. It was staged by the Trump team in order to really make him seem like the hero. And what is the evidence to this, right? And here's something very important. Whenever you hear a theory on anything, it's important to ask, what is the hypothesis, and see if that hypothesis actually makes sense, right? So the hypothesis here is that, okay, Trump would stage an assassination. It would make him look tough. It would make him look good. It would unify the country behind him. And that would guarantee him winning the election, right? So That's a reasonable hypothesis. Now our goal is to try to poke holes in this and see if that really makes sense, and then try to look for what it would actually entail to pull something like this off. And this is where that theory actually starts to fall apart, right? And keep in mind, another conspiracy theory fundamental is the more people required to be involved in pulling something off, the less likelihood it is of being true. It's hard to get many people to coordinate in secret without anybody leaking it. It also depends on who these people are. Some people are easier to convince, others are less easy to convince, and we will get into that. Would Trump do a publicity stunt to ensure victory? Sure. I believe most people would. What extent would they take it to? Would they pretend to get almost shot? But actually, we know there was a real shooting, right? Someone was killed and 2 people were injured. So is the idea, is this, like, let's actually talk through this. Did Trump have somebody snipe? And you think that he trusted it to be close enough to his ear so you get bloody? So people are saying, no, he wouldn't do that. He was like fake blood that he put on his ear when they all jumped on him. But there were real shots fired. So is now the theory that he put fake blood on him, right? We're going to rule out that he let a marksman shoot close enough to his ear to draw blood. That's just ridiculous. Nobody would do that. Okay. So is the theory now that there was a marksman that actually killed people, right? Killed 1 person and 2 more injured. And then he put fake blood on himself. So first of all, now we're accusing Trump of murder in order to increase polling numbers when he was already projected to win. Seems unlikely. But what makes it even more unlikely and nearly impossible is the people you would need involved in it, right? So for that to happen, the Secret Service would need to be involved. And this is why, one of the reasons why people think there's something fishy going on is because of how the Secret Service acted, right? So there's a few things they did clearly wrong. One is, how did you let a sharpshooter, get on a roof and take a shot? You have a video of the Secret Service sniper killing him seconds after he took the shot. Why did he wait so long? You have reports of people noticing this guy on a roof and letting the police know and them not doing much about it. You even have a video where you see him on the roof and people are pointing like, he's on the roof. This was 2 minutes before the shots, right? And then you have this very weird instance where after the shots were fired, they actually let Trump, well, they stayed on the stage long. You're meant to get him off stage like very fast, right? But then once they started getting him off stage, they actually let him stand, exposing his whole self to more fire, just to do that epic photo shoot, right? So that is all stuff that it seems suspicious. It's like, okay, the Secret Service made all these mistakes. Clearly, they let it happen. But let's actually think about it. How would Trump, right? Let's say Trump wants to do this as a staged event for exposure, right? How is he going to convince the Secret Service, who he himself is not their boss, right? They are given to him by the U.S. government. This is a U.S. government division. The Secret Service are people who are generally very square, right? They're rule followers. They're very loyal to their job, loyal to the point where whoever they get sent to protect, they are meant to take a bullet for. This is a very specific type of person who is in the Secret Service. What do you think? Trump called a meeting with them and said, okay, we're going to hire a shooter. So sniper, let him take a few shots off and then kill him. And then before taking me off stage, let me stand up to get this sick photo shoot. Come on, guys. Clearly the chance of getting a whole group of Secret Service agents to agree to that is really close to 0%. So that's one of the theories we could already rule out. The other one is the reverse, but it's equally easy to rule out because it also relies on the Secret Service being in on it, right? People who think that this was an inside job, the Secret Service set him up. They wanted Trump to die, so that's why the sniper on the roof, the Secret Service sniper, let the guy get a shot off. That's why they let him stand. They wanted him to die. Now, again, that's equally unlikely because the people you hire for the Secret Service are not people who these are people who are willing to take a bullet for the person they are sent to protect, and all of a sudden their boss calls them up and be like, okay guys, you're gonna go against what you're meant to do, and you're gonna let Trump die. Right? Very, very unlikely. What I will say though, if you do want to point to the sniper, maybe the sniper was in on it. That's one guy. Can you convince one guy, right, to be in on it? We also don't know, was the guy sent on the roof part of it, right? Once you're talking about a conspiracy that requires one Secret Service agent, then it's in the realm of possible. And the reason I'm putting an emphasis on this is because it will really, looking at things this way will really help us make sense out of all types of different conspiracies and see the likelihood of things happening. So why would the Secret Service act like this? And I agree, this is like the most suspicious part, but it's probably that the Secret Service, as well trained as they're meant to be, don't deal with actual assassination attempts so often. And we saw in a real-time scenario, they fucked up in many different instances. It's also possible that Trump gets like the lower grade Secret Service, right? Like the ones, he's not a sitting president, right? The Secret Service agents that are protecting Biden those are the top tier ones. And then Biden would get second tier ones. And one can even make the case, because of politics, because Trump is so hated, the person in the Secret Service who appoints the agents to different people decided to give him the lower tier ones, right? We can speculate on that. Again, that requires really one person, maybe two people to decide something. But that's not going to guarantee Trump gets assassinated. That will just increase the chance of them not being able to protect them if something happens. And we could speculate on if that happened. Again, in the realm of possible, because it just requires one to two people making decisions. So you have these Secret Service agents that are probably not the top tier ones. Well, we know they're not the top tier ones. The top tier ones are with Biden, and Biden's family as well. It's not just the sitting president; his whole family, immediate family, gets agents. And two, they just don't deal with this a lot. So when push came to shove, they just probably made a few mistakes in the moment. Now, the guy who was the sniper on the roof, he's the one who messed up the most, right? He was meant to see that there's a guy on a roof with a gun. He should have taken him out before. But again, the hesitation could have been to the point where you don't take killing somebody lightly, especially if you're not in a war zone. He might wanted to make sure. He wanted he was maybe hesitating he wanted to just make sure that it was really a guy with a gun. Like it's hard to know what you go through, but it's very likely he didn't take the decision to snipe somebody lightly, wanted to wait. He waited too long, and Trump was almost killed. Again, he still messed up, because if that is your job, you need to take the shot. Now, let's get into theories that are more possible, right? One is just what currently the official narrative is. It's a lone shooter that wanted to kill Trump. And this on its own also raises a little bit suspicion. First of all, it's a 20-year-old who has no military experience. It's unclear, and who's a registered Republican, and according to his classmates, has conservative views. So that's not the kind of person you would think who would want to assassinate Trump. There's one theory is that it's not politically motivated, but it's more like incel motivated. So this kid's an incel, and it seems like he fits that vibe. Hold on one second. There is some background noise. Okay, sorry about that. So he doesn't fit the usual suspect that seems to come from a really ideologically motivated place. He more so fits like that incel school shooter vibe that's doing it either to get back at bullies or to be remembered, right? It seems like what drives a lot of Um, Lone shooters these days is notoriety. It's being a nobody and wanting to be somebody, even if you're that somebody in jail. So you do need to think that, Trump is one of the most polarizing figures ever, and to be the one to assassinate him puts you in the history books, you know, without a doubt. So that very well may have been the motivation. But what is the likelihood a 20-year-old on his own could have really done all that and known what roof to set up on and bring a ladder? I don't know. Honestly, it seems like uh, there's something a little bit suspicious about one person on their own being able to do it. So, and again, I'm not saying it's impossible. Him pulling it off on his own, as the official narrative is certainly within the realm of possible. It's much more likely than the first two theories we spoke about. But another theory is that he didn't act on his own, and he was hired or convinced to do this by some organization or agency, whether it's an intelligence agency, FBI, CIA, Mossad, right? You could speculate on who. I saw people saying it's the Mossad. While the Mossad's capable of assassinations, I mean, they've attempted or maybe even succeeded in the past, but there's it's not that the Mossad wouldn't do that. It's I don't see them having any incentive to do that for something like this, because Trump is the most pro-Israel president in history. So, if they let someone like Obama live, they're not going to kill Trump. That's obviously me speculating, but I think we could rule them out. But is like our intelligence agencies in the U.S. they're going to do anything again to get Trump out of power? I'd say more likely than the Mossad, but also I don't think he's enough of a threat for them to want to do that. I think the more likely is, you know, it could be like a hired hitman, or the Democratic Party could be behind it. Um, the Biden family could be behind it, right? These are all possibilities. I'm not making a claim as to what, because we don't know. I'm simply going through the realm of possibility. Um, is it more likely that, let's just speculate on this, Biden had a horrible debate. He's not planning on stepping out, even though many people in his own party want him to. Maybe this is a last ditch effort for him to be victorious. It's to get his opponent out of there, right? Is Biden enough of a stand-up guy that he wouldn't call a hit on somebody? I'm not sure about that. And again, I would say the same about Trump. Is Trump willing to call a hit on somebody he hates? I don't think either of these are stand-up moral people. I think it's possible. Again, we don't have any evidence of this, so it's all speculation. But these are all theories that I I'd say we cannot rule out this early on, and we probably will never have all the information, right? If this was connected to some intelligence agency or one of the political parties or Biden himself, we'll never get that information. So we're just speculating, really, for the sake of how to think about issues and why are all these possible. Because if it comes from, again, a small group, can effectively organize. Um, Intelligence agencies do have people in them that would do anything it takes to get it done, regardless of what their mission is. It's not like these square people like in the Secret Service. It's more rule benders, special ops. It's a different profile of person, and it doesn't require a large group of them. It could really be, you know, 2 to 3 people who are in on it and working with the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, to pull this off. Again, within the realm of possible. If I had to bet on one theory, what would it be? I'm not sure. I'd need a little bit more information, but it would be between it being supported by, like, either him doing it on his own and just getting lucky with his success, even though he wasn't truly successful, but with his relative success, or this being some, like, connected to the Democratic Party or other, like, let's call them deep state actors who just want a president who they know that they have more control over. I would be split between those two. until more information comes out. It's possible once we have a full report and we see how exactly he pulled this off on his own, it would put more weight towards him actually being able to do it on his own. But if we still have all these weird questions about his success and what went wrong, then maybe there will, maybe my opinion will shift to the other direction. But that's generally my analysis. The two theories of it being staged and the Secret Service either being in on the publicity stunt or being in on trying to kill him, close to 0%. Lone shooter or lone shooter plus the help of some institution or organization. I'd say I'm pretty 50-50 on which one it is there. What do you all think? What's on your minds? Did I miss something? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. We'll read some comments. Gwolixco, I think more than anything, it's all quite a substantial testimony to the dire state the Democratic Party's at. So does that mean you think that the Democrats are behind this? Floodland 9999 goes, it was sad that Obama and Biden wouldn't refer to him as President Trump, even former, they just said him or his name. I didn't even notice that, but yeah, that's disrespectful. You don't need to like the guy to see him as president. Roughly Galaxy goes, do you think the media has given up on not publicizing the identity of domestic terrorists? Yeah, I mean, they've never not given the identity. I think this was just a plan that was proposed, right? So you have these lone shooters that are doing it for notoriety, and the one way to stop that from happening is to not give them notoriety, so to not publish their name. The problem with this is really one of game theory, because unless nobody publishes it, everybody's going to publish it, right? And I don't think you're going to get buy-in from all the media to not publish it unless there's a law. So if there's a law that you're not allowed to publish the name, then they'll need to comply, and then no one will publish it. But the second one does, they're going to get the views or the clicks and impressions, and then everybody's gonna want to. So it's either all or none. Fahed goes, something that doesn't make sense to me. I see many Trump advocates are anti-Israel AIPAC. How do they reconcile it with the fact that Trump is pro-Israel? This is a good question, Fahed. This is really just a form of cognitive dissonance. Trump very much runs on the idea of America first. A lot of America first people are anti-Israel. And he call him the most America first president, at least in his rhetoric. So they have this perception of him that he's a certain way. And then the second he acts in a way that's contradictory to their perception, they need to make sense of it. And often they'll just find like an excuse. He's playing 3D chess. He's not really pro-Israel. He just needs their support now, and I'll turn on them. Or they just ignore it. Another area we see this when it comes to Trump is when it comes to vaccines, right? A lot of Trump supporters are very anti-vax. Trump still takes credit for the one to getting the vax out there at warp speed, he says. He's saying he saved millions of lives by getting the vaccine out there. His supporters, generally speaking, just ignore this. But I have seen people get off the Trump bandwagon because of his support for Israel and because of his support for vaccines. Hold on, some background noise. I'm currently in Marina Herzliya in Israel. Those people who got off the bandwagon for those reasons, I would say, are far more principled, because they may have liked Trump for many reasons, but he went against their values in certain areas, so they jumped off the Trump bandwagon. What was interesting is I've seen some people after this assassination get back on the Trump bandwagon. Nick Fuentes was one of those. He's always been kind of pro-Trump, but Fuentes, a notorious anti-Semite and anti-Israel, he has not liked the fact that Trump is so pro-Israel. But after the assassination, he's really been really been on the Trump bandwagon. And he's one of the people that theorized that he thinks this is, he actually said it's either Mossad or U.S. intelligence agencies. Um, and again, I would say U.S. intelligence agencies is more likely, but at least credit where credit's due. At least he didn't go full blown conspiracy on the. Actually, that's not true. I take that back. He was tweeting stuff about the Secret Service being in on it and all that. All that seems highly unlikely. Also, you know who's kind of took a turn for the worse on this one? Destiny's been wild. He's talk about somebody who I thought was principled. He's been acting really weird. He was kind of like mocking the guy who died, saying if you're at a rally of a traitor and an insurrectionist, I don't care if you catch a bullet. Okay, so when you frame it that way, it's kind of, I don't know if he's just being reactionary, not thinking about this deeply. When you frame it that way, it could sound compelling. It's like, oh, these people are supporting a traitor. What do I care what happens to traitors? But to just think anybody who supports Trump is by default a traitor is just not the right framing. You literally have two options. And it's unclear that there's two things that are unclear. Many people are not convinced that the 2020 elections were legit. Okay. And again, they were legit, and there may have been some small amounts of voter fraud, which happens in every election, not enough to sway the election. But again, we live in, call it a post-truth society, where it's very, very hard to know what's true. It's very, very hard to know who to trust. So to reach the conclusion that you don't think the election was legit doesn't make you a bad person, especially in the world we're living in today. And to not think, and so if you think that Trump was cheated, isn't the logical conclusion to want to fight back against a system that just stole an election from the person you support? Right? So that's one way to look at it. That does not make you a traitor or a bad person. It just doesn't, even though you're wrong. And the second one is, did Trump really try an insurrection? You know, his language was ambiguous. Yeah, the storming the Capitol is wrong, but it's not like there was anywhere close to there being a true insurrection and a coup taking place. You know, people were upset because they believed that the election was stolen. So, you know, Destiny, there's a lot he says that I agree with and generally have respected his approach to things, but I think he's taking a turn for the worse. Also, him being overly pro-Israel is an area where I lost a bit of respect for him. Also seems to have done that for, somebody says he's an attention seeker. That also seems to have been connected to that. It's also, he's like this debate bro, or like a debate master, right? He's always invited to debate. So the second he decides he's pro-Israel, he needs to become the best pro-Israel debater because he's going up against all these opponents. But so he's constantly looking for, how do I become the best pro-Israel debater? But that's not the way to look at it, right? Unless that's your goal, to be the best pro-Israel debater. It's to understand the issue as deeply as possible, which on its own can help you debate. But if you actually, when you're already convinced one side's right and the other's wrong, you're going to learn it deeply, but you're going to give different pieces of information different amount of value based on your preconceived notion, right? So like something Israel does wrong, you're more likely to sweep that under the rug and excuse it. If something, you know, Hamas or the Palestinian Authority does wrong, you're going to put that front and center because it supports your argument. And this isn't like a conscious thing people do. It's really a subconscious thing we do, but we give much more weight to parts of the argument that support what we're saying, or the parts of the full picture that support what we're saying. So that's kind of what we're seeing happening with him and many others who are very one-sided. I think the right way to look at Israel-Palestine is like, let's take an analogy. You have a couple that have been abusing each other domestically, and there's a domestic abuse case. And you could make a judgment as to who, the man's probably more powerful, and the man has caused far more physical and maybe even psychological harm to the woman, right? Him having all this power. But when you look at domestic abuse cases, often the abuse goes both ways. Both sides have done condemnable shit to one another. Now, if they go to family court, the attorney is going to act like one is an angel, the other is the devil. And this is how most people look at Israel-Palestine. They are attorneys, that they act as attorneys, that they need to prove that one is good, the other is bad. In reality, the way we should look at Israel-Palestine is as a mediator, right? Instead of going to family court, it's about going to family therapy. When you go to family therapy, you're not trying to paint one out as good, the other as bad. You're trying for both sides to be able to reflect on where they've gone wrong and what they can do differently. And that's the way to look at Israel-Palestine. There are some instances, and people get triggered by this, because they say, given this power imbalance, how can you both sides this, right? Would you both sides the Nazis against the Jews? Well, somebody's ability to act for change should not be dependent on how much power they have. It should be dependent on if there are actions they can take to change their situation. So, if there was something Jews could have done to fight the Nazis or avoid them being killed in the Holocaust, right? Then yes, I would have that expectation of Jews. And again, if somebody thinks there's something Jews could have done, share it. And I would say, yes, then Jews should have done that. So again, it's not about whose intention is worse and who's more powerful. It's can each side take steps to change their situation? If the answer is yes, then clearly both sides should take those steps. This whole idea, and this is very much a Western framing, which really, I despise it, because it really gets in the way of solutions. It's very much oppressor versus oppressed. If you're the oppressor, everything you do is wrong. And if you're the oppressed, nothing you do is wrong. And we see this with Israel-Palestine. We see this with white Americans and black Americans, a very similar dynamic. One has complete agency, the other has no agency. But there's something actually racist about this, to believe that oppressed people lose their agency. Why? Why do they not have agency? Like, to believe that Palestinians don't have agency and nothing they could do no wrong is in fact a form of racism. It's a bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to keep both siding this issue. Probably till the day I die. Both sides, baby. Unless the dynamic shifts and there's really nothing one side can do, right? If there's nothing one side can do, well, then I will only focus on the side that can do something. Yeah, Fahed, you make a good point that lately you see Destiny becoming a little bit more reasonable towards Palestinians after his visit. Yeah, that's true. That did wake him up. So you know how there's like the concept of red pill? That's kind of when you finally see the truth, but it's like a right-wing term when you're kind of wake up to the establishment, right? It's not like a neoconservative term. It's more like a America First term, when you wake up that both the right and the left are not working for the people, and that the solution is more like a right-wing nationalist. That's what red pill means. And then I recently saw black pill. I forgot what black pill. Let's see. The term black pill. Oh, is this an incel term? The term black pill first popularized in 2010s on incel blog Omega Virgin Revolt. Refers to the futility of fighting against the feminist system. Black pill incels are encouraged to either commit suicide or Interesting. I did not see it in that context. Well, we should come up with our own terminology, a color pill that really allows us to wake up to a more nuanced worldview, to understand that things are not so simple, and the villains generally are not whole groups of people. There's no ethnic group that is in our way of solving problems. There's no, it's not so much people. It's more so a problem in the structure of the system and the a bad incentive models, right? This requires nuance, it requires complexity, but it allows us to stop blaming people and start looking at how we could change systems that people can interact in those systems in a way that's harmonious. So this is what we should be popularizing, this idea. Maybe I'll do a video just on this concept, but what do we call that? I was trying to think of different pill colors. I thought rainbow pill, but that sounds a little too LGBT. People would get the wrong idea. So maybe we call it a platinum pill. Ooh, you've been platinum pilled. Guys, we're starting a movement, okay? The platinum pill movement. Who in the comments has been platinum pilled? Let me know. Let me know by telling me I've been platinum pilled. I'll start the trend. Platinum. The problem with platinum pilling is that it requires a complexity of thought that's sometimes uncomfortable. It's so much easier to just simplify the worldview. This is really a lot of anti-Semitism is look at all the problems. How do we make sense of it? The Jews, it's so easy, right? Or a racist might say, look at our problems. It's the blacks. Or on the reverse side of things, many on the left will say, oh, it's the white man. And then you could say call this a layer deeper would be focusing on a system, but still I would say a little bit lacking nuances. Oh, it's the patriarchy. Oh, it's capitalism. Oh, it's socialism, right? This is moving shifting from people to systems, which I think is a step above. But generally, the people who are saying this aren't really proposing a coherent alternative to the systems. It's really these revolutionary things that want to just deconstruct without a coherent plan to what reconstruction looks like. And also, capitalism versus socialism is not the right question. I think it's what is the balance between the private and public sector. You know, some would say you need all private sector. These will be libertarians. A socialist or communist would say only public sector. But I think generally the conversation is what is the balance of the two? What are the problems in the current system? What is actually policy positions we can implement to change them? I think that's generally how the conversation could have. So if that's how you're having the conversation, you've been platinum pilled. And a lot of it comes down to just bad incentive models, right? And this is an interesting one. So those who hold the most power are not incentivized to look out for the average individual, right? Politicians are not saying, how can we best serve our constituents? They're saying, how can we get reelected? The media is not saying, how could we best inform the public? They're saying, how can we get the most views? Companies aren't saying, how can we make our customers the healthiest? They're saying, how can we make the most profit? All of these are generally contrary or counter to human well-being. So those who hold the most power are not acting in the best interest of the average individual. It doesn't come from a place of malice. It comes from a place of self-interest. If we could find a way that they are acting in the best interest of humanity, the world would be a very, very, very different place, right? How do you do this? I'm not sure exactly, but one idea is a tax model that is dependent on the quality of your product or service. So, for example, the tax rate that you pay is dependent on how healthy your product is for the consumer, how well you treat your employees, how honest your marketing tactics are, and how good your product or service is for the planet. And if you meet all this criteria, and you're just really helping humanity, right? You're making people healthier. Your employees are paid well and treated well. You're not damaging the environment. You're selling your product in a fair and honest way. Maybe you pay a close to 0% tax rate. But if you're poisoning people, manipulating them, treating your workers like shit, then you just get taxed high. Instantly, you have a system where human well-being is tied to the profit a company makes, right? So the question that these companies will make, that the question they will ask is, how do we best serve the people? Just an idea. How do you implement it? What is the criteria for the taxation? These are all things that need to be thought through, but it always starts with just an idea. So putting that out there. Fairly Large Forestry goes, it's kind of funny that these kinds of revelation type awakenings all come in pill form these days. Yeah. Matrix, the Matrix really shifted our culture, Yeah. Strange Lit Girl says, makes sense. Let's go. That's our first endorsement. Yeah, I mean, how do we get this to the leaders? I guess first we need leaders that are normal people. But it's probably the kind of thing that you probably makes sense to start getting done like on a more local level, right? You see, you could do this on like a state. No, would that work on a state level? I don't know. I need to think this one through. But hey, one day, slowly but surely, we're going to grow this platform. One day, any idea we put out will instantly reach millions of people, and this can be a way that we can shift culture and change policy through influence. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Yeah, let's change the world. Change the world, people. Anyways, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in. I might do another stream this week for Israel-Palestine stuff. Actually, Fahed, I see you here. Fahed, Fahed is our friend from Gaza. I wanted to do a one-on-one stream with you. I know we had you on a few weeks ago, but there were, it was a call-in show. We had many more people on the stream. So if you're down to do a one-on-one conversation, let me know. Maybe we could even do it this week, early next week. And if anybody else has ideas, let me know. I'd be down to have a few more debates. I like to diversify it. These solo sessions are fun. The call-in shows are fun. Moderating conversations between two people is fun. And then sometimes me debating is also fun. I noticed, and I'm often challenging people to debates on Twitter and other social media platforms. And honestly, 99 out of 100 don't accept, whether they're like anonymous profiles or bigger names. They either don't respond, or they or they say let's do it, and then they ghost me. I'm not even going to say that everyone's running away. I think probably the bigger names just don't see me as a big enough name for them to debate. What I would say is I'm probably, because if I'm to speculate beyond that, my views are a little bit atypical on most of the issues, right? It's like if you're very pro-Israel and you're ready to debate somebody who's anti-Israel, you're not going to really know my arguments that well. And the reverse is true. If you're really pro-Palestine, you're not gonna hear the pro-Israel arguments from me. So I do think on one level there might be a discomfort, but it's not like I'm some master debater. I'm not a trained debater. So where y'all at? Everyone's all brave on Twitter, but no one wants to come have a debate on a live stream. And the topics I want to debate. Oh, damn, that background noise, huh? We got a family stopped. Nice little, I want to debate anti-Semites. I want to debate right-wing Zionists or anybody in the Hasbara camp. It doesn't need to be a right-wing Zionist. It could be like someone like Hen Mazig, who considers himself a progressive Zionist, or anyone in the anti-Zionist camp. So if y'all have recommendations or know people, maybe you want to tweet at people, seeing that if they want to hop on. Let's get some interesting conversations going. And again, it doesn't have to be a debate. I love doing interviews. Honestly, one of my favorite live streams we ever did was last week with Louis Fishman. I don't know if y'all have checked that out, but he's an expert. He's a historian and an expert in late Ottoman Palestine. That was an awesome episode. I highly suggest you check it out. So yeah, I was open to suggestions. You can find my information in the description. And if anyone wants to support the show, you could also find how to do that in the description as well. Anyways, thank you all so much. See you either later this week or early next week. Much love.